Devastating flood incident occurred in Niger State, Mashegu and Magama local governments on Friday, leaving 7 people missing. The flood caused by torrential rainfall affected 89 households, destroyed hundreds of hectares of farmland, and swept away the 3 vehicles. State Emergency Management Agency confirmed the incident and stated that search and rescue operations are ongoing. The affected communities include Sabon Pegi in Mashegu local government and Nasarawa in Magama local government. The recent flood disaster adds to the growing list of several flooding incidents in Nigeria, which have displaced thousands and caused significant damage to properties and infrastructure. So tell us, Ugochukwu, what's your take on this issue of flooding?
The issue of flooding, like this morning, I had someone who called in on your sister radio station and said that, because he came on the newspaper review, he said that it is no longer a natural disaster. It is man-made. The flood happening in Nigeria is man-made, truth be told. Because when we have visited many countries in the world, and we also read about how they handle natural disasters. The natural disasters in Nigeria is man-made because like when I was in the UK, one of our lecturers came to me and said, Nigeria have everything. After God created the world, other nations were so envious of Nigeria. God said, no, don't worry, I can't take back what I've given them. You know what I will do to them? I'll give them the deserved leaders. I don't want to, because I don't want to call it any name.
That is uncharitable.
No, I would say that they're deserved leaders.
Okay.
Because it's from amongst us that our leaders are coming.
Okay.
So they will give them their deserved leader. That will be their tsunami.
Okay.
That will be their earthquake. That will be their natural disaster. And that is what is happening. Because let me recall that I was not born then. They said in the early 70s or 80s, the United Nations, or is it UNESCO or whatever, came up with a proposal that a dam should be built in Cameroon and Nigeria. Cameroon built their own, used the money that was given to them, maybe ecological fund or whatever from the World Reserve, and built their own dam, which is standing today. Because the world envisaged what is happening now about the climate change and the way it is going to affect the coastal states. And Nigeria is among the coastal nations. Because here we have the Pacific, we have the Atlantic, we have the transatlantic, we have the Mediterranean, all crisscrossing around Nigeria. So Cameroon built their own, and Nigeria failed to build their own. And those who collaborated to misappropriate that money today, they were not called to question. So when this flood, when the rain gets at the volume, it will accumulate in Cameroon, because I think they are in the lowlands, and Nigeria is on the upper volta. So when Cameroonian dam gets filled, what happens is that they need to open it. And then when they open it, it's expected that Nigeria has a place they will collect and save the masses of Nigeria. What causes it is that when the river over now flows their bounds, that is also all the monies, aside from that, all the ecological funds. Today we are not talking of 13% derivation. We are talking of what they call a security vote. We are talking of the money that is accruable to NDDC, Southeastern Development Commission, Northeast Development Commission, and all whatnot. All those monies that have been earmarked year in, year out to take care of these unforeseen circumstances. Nigeria has the NIMET. They have emergency what committee or whatever emergency agency in Nigeria. What are their duties? Earmark money for them, they will reloot it among themselves. It won't get to the desired people. So what I'm saying is that what has happened in Niger State is man-made. And we are even lucky that only 7 people died because of the quantum of flood that visited that particular area. And in this case, the state government has failed in their duties to hearken to the to the announcement from the meteorological agency in Nigeria that flood is coming. And they just like in River State, here we are. Let me not even go far. What efforts have the state government made in waiting for the flood that will come? Because whether it will come or not, it will. Because when the Cameroonian Dam gets filled up, they have to open it and it will overflow the riverbanks in Nigeria and begin to visit people in unexpected places. So what I'm saying is that the Nigerian states are not prepared to help their citizens. Is this same Niger state that their governor took the deputy governor, the House Speaker, and the deputy speaker commissioners left the state with the monies accruable to the state to go for a lesser Hajj visit. You know what that Esther code, how much that is involved in the Esther code. But look at his people suffering in flooding. This is what we see in Nigeria. That's why I say that my lecturer in UK told me that our tsunami and our natural disaster is our leaders. Because if this man who has assumed office in Niger State knows that flood will come, and his people, those who stood under the rain and shine to vote him into power, are anything to go by, that he should have listened to the voice of nature and prepared a home for these people. And that means is an increase in food insecurity in Nigeria, because this is the result. It is not only the 7 people that died, it is the quantum of the farmlands that have been submerged. It is the quantum of houses that have been submerged. The people have been rendered homeless, which is avoidable. In Philippines and other torrential areas, you know what they do? They do not allow the citizens to build strong buildings in places that are flood prone. You know what happens? Each year, the government will now evacuate them to the highlands. After the typhoon has passed, they will now build a makeshift house for them in their localities. Because you know that every year or every 2 years, those buildings got swept away, and the government will immediately... What happened after the Qatar World Cup? Those tents that were used by athletes to camp and the people that visited to camp, the Qatari government shared it to the world, where they have IDP camps. Did Nigeria collect? Because these are modernized tents that were made so that they are very superior, that it can last for years. And they shared it to other nations. They shared it to people in Ukraine, people in Afghanistan, in Gaza, and the West Bank. But did Nigeria make effort to collect? What they ran to collect is the wheat that the Ukrainian government gave them, forgetting that we will have flood here. And the ones that have happened over the years, has the government even paid compensation or even made concerted effort to reach out to the people that suffered from those flood disasters? The answer is no. What they are waiting for now, you hear tomorrow, the monies that are being earmarked to reach these people, which will not get to them at the end of the day, windy. This is our tsunami. This is our natural disaster, is the Nigerian leaders.
So you were saying that our leaders are solely responsible for the flooding incidents?
It's because it is avoidable.
Okay, so King, do you agree?
First, it's a very devastating issue. Okay. I'll share my experience. Luckily, last year, I visited the ISIS of Ahoda West and Ahoda East during the flood blackout last year, 2023. I visited a community called Akukruma. I was, interviewing one woman. She said, last 6 years ago, she lost her first child as a result of this same flood. At that point, I feel embarrassed. I feel pathetic. I lost it. I was dumbfounded. I say, and today, since 6 years ago, you are still experiencing this same thing. Okay. She said it will continue. Now look at the issue. As Ugochukwu has said, this issue of flood is avoidable. It is something that if we put on the modalities, bring out experts, we will build on this flood, even utilize the economic value of this flood. Go to countries like Finland. those are countries that even flooded with water. You see some houses being built, there is water on the ground. Underground, there is house on the up. So we can call those countries, put them in place. They come and survey these areas that is being flood prone to look a way to build these things so that our people will not be going into these sufferings. Last year, 2023, I was among the APC campaign council. I was campaigning for my governorship candidate, Architecture Tonyeko. Is a profound architecture in the globe. So he called some of his experts. We went to Ahoda. After they carried out some investigations on how those places will be, some structures they will put in place to make sure that that flood will not be repeating itself every year. They give a total figure to use to construct that particular infrastructure. It's what about 5 billion. A project that one flyover in Rivers State cost more than. So you see that is a high level
priority.
Of misplaced priority.
Yes,
sensitivity. Insensitivity by those who are managing the natural resources of this country. Where it baffles me most is you see these people on the day of their inauguration, they say, I swear to uphold the sovereignty of this country, to make sure I protect life and properties. At the end of the day, you see them doing what that suits them. In fact, I found that in Nigeria. Now, Nigeria is the only country that projects are being conducted without putting into cognizance the scale of need of the people. A governor, a chairman, a president may wake up today and say, I want to do this particular project without putting in cognizance what the people need. So it calls for an issue. I see this issue of flood repeating itself on a yearly basis in Nigeria as a coordinated suffering by those who are saddled with the responsibility to use our own resources to solve this problem.
Okay, let me ask. How about, why don't we consider the residents that have converted some of these drainage systems we have into refuse disposal depots? Because I think that's also one of the many causes.
Building on waterways is also government agencies that hands out.
I'm not talking about building.
Those
How about those persons that trash, they dump their refuse in a drainage system, making it very difficult for the water.
It cannot cause this kind of volume of water.
No, I want to inform you.
No, it can. But
no. It cannot. It cannot cause this kind of quantum of flooding we saw in here.
If you follow the trend of flood, particularly in Rivers State, the east-west road that broke during the flood at Ahoda, it was a federal road. In fact, it was an isolated place. Okay. But the rate of the flood broke that road into two. Okay. Now, this issue is, as I mentioned earlier, is something that we can solve. There is one thing about flood, and there is this thing about how water flows. It has lane.
Of course.
If you create those canals and those drainage, my dear, those things will move without even causing any havoc, bringing economic devastation to the country, to the people who are living in the state. I have issue with it. After this flood, what happened? The probe flood time, where you will see these people who are dishomed, their economic livelihood has been, affected. Their homes has been affected. There are so many things that psychologically, emotionally, that this flood has caused them that will take time. How do this agency, Rewama, respond to these issues? You will see, you start now to hear a misappropriation of fund. This fund has been taken.
People are waiting to cash in on it now.
So you see that all these things
people are waiting to cash in for this year.
Made for people to suffer. And those persons who are suffering this are the common citizens. There are some persons who are saying, hold on, the next flood will look for a way to withdraw money from there. Yes,
they're waiting already.
So we have to be very blunt. No, for that, we have to be very blunt about it so that we spell out the issues and provide solution to it. These things can be solved. We should stop sitting on the fence and saying, the project is too much, it's too exorbitant to carry out this project. If you can reconstruct a presidential quarter worth in 100 billions of naira, why can't us build a canal that will handle these flood issues of 5 billion. So we need to reprioritize how we, take the citizens' welfare first before putting our own, those who are the elites, their own first.
Okay, so we are clearly saying that flooding in Nigeria is not a natural disaster, it is man-made, and the government have the resources and should do the right thing to address the situation. That's what my guests are saying. So over to the next